Hi, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'll be talking to you about 3 tips to improve drawing hands. So let's get started. Welcome back to Photoshop. And here is a photograph of my hand. So drawing tip number 1 to improve your hand drawing skills is simply use sticks. And what I mean by use sticks, your fingers and your thumb in their simplest form are sticks. So we can use the joints of the hand and the knuckles to connect and find distances. The bones of the hands connect at the wrist, and they fan out from the wrist to form the palm of your hand and your thumb and your fingers. So if we take a look at my hand with an overlay of the way the bones form out of the wrist area, you'll see that there are five metatarsal carpal bones that connect to phalanges, and all of your fingers have 3 sections and your thumb have 2. So if we use that information and look at how our hand is constructed, it will help you draw hands easier. So as you can see in my hand here, you can kind of see where the metacarpal bones lead up to my knuckles, like so, from the wrist. And then over here from the wrist on the thumb. And so if you use this method, it'll help you quickly establish how long each finger is and thumb. And then also it'll allow you to break your lines up at the joints as they fan across your hand, like so. So tip number 1 is use sticks. And so let's jump on over to the drawing table and I'll demonstrate exactly what I mean. Okay, so welcome back over to the drawing table. As I just explained in Photoshop, let's talk about drawing sticks. I have my reference here, eraser, number two pencil, copier paper, and pencil sharpener as needed. So like I was explaining in Photoshop, that we just want to draw sticks. And so you can see with this photo of my hand that you can see where the metacarpals of the hand, come out from the wrist area here. And so although we talked about how the bones fan out from the wrist, they don't necessarily come out in a straight line. So the metacarpals come out from the wrist to the first joint, and then they kind of change angles and then head in a straight direction towards the tips of the fingers. So as we were talking about, the phalanges are the bones of the fingers. Each one of these have 3 sections in them, 3 pieces, and the thumb only has 2. So what we want to do is we want to draw sticks from the wrist area to the first joint, and then from the first joint to the tips of the fingers and thumb. So that's an easy way to start drawing a hand, because basically you're going to define the shape and the direction of the fingers and kind of the gesture and the movement of the hand. So what we want to do is we want to Start from the wrist, find the angle, and just kind of lightly sketch it in, like so. And then from that point in the wrist, we're going to keep drawing the sticks based on the direction they're coming out from the wrist, like so, to the first joint, like so. So we know that we have joints that go across the knuckles here, and they go kind of in an arc pattern. So we want to capture that arc pattern by just, using a curve and marking them on our sticks, like so. And the one for the thumb is over here. And so then we'll continue on from the knuckles and draw the phalanges, which from the knuckle to the first joint here will be the longest section of the fingers. So we'll continue based on the angles that we see. We'll just, honestly, we can just go all the way to the tip of the finger, right? And so we'll do the same thing with the ring finger. Find the angle, draw it out to about where we think the tip of the finger is here. Same thing with the middle finger. We'll draw that up. We know that's a little bit longer than the ring finger, so we'll make it a little longer. And then the index or the pointer finger, we'll do the same thing. Find the angle from that knuckle. Sketch that out like so. And then the thumb, just depending on how you're holding your thumb, will probably have a break in it. So we'll draw the first phalange here, like so. And then the second little break out to where we think the end of it is. And so now we can find, based on our knuckle location, the points to break the phalanges up so that you can define where your fingers will bend. So I'll come in and I'll mark those accordingly. And again, these will be the longest sections past the knuckle. This line will be the longest. This break will be the longest, followed by the next section up to the next knuckle or joint. The distance between this joint and this joint will be shorter than the distance between the knuckle and the first joint here. So we know that'll be shorter. And then also kind of in this arcing pattern, this one will be shorter than this distance, and so on across like this. And since there's only two on the thumb, we've kind of already placed that one here. And so there you have kind of the sections of your hand figured out based on just drawing sticks. So then once you know the distances between joints and the angles, now you can come in and start blocking in the shapes in between the sticks that you placed here to kind of help you know that you have to capture all these sticks or bones inside of the drawing shape that you're going to capture, if that makes sense. So then we'll come in here and do the same thing for the thumb, because we're just roughing this all in like so. And then the thumb has a kind of a shape like that. And then you can see that from where the knuckles sit here and where this web-like skin is between your fingers, the knuckles aren't drawn all the way to the base of where your fingers are in the drawing. They sit maybe a third of the way back. So you want to account for that by adding maybe a shape like this here that kind of mimics what's going on here in your reference. And then from there, you're just making business decisions based on how thick your fingers are. So you just want to make sure you capture the stick. Basically is the center line of each one of these fingers. So then you can kind of offset the shape of that to know that you're going to draw your fingers up to this distance and then round them off like so. Same thing here. Just kind of quickly roughing this in so you can get an idea of how this technique works. And then obviously, once you kind of have this and you know where all these things kind of lay on your sketch, then you can come in and start erasing some of these guidelines and fine-tuning your sketch. But hopefully this technique will help you at least get an idea proportionally of how to draw a hand. And that's the point. You know, you draw these sticks, and I can see here that if I'm looking at this and looking at this, the thumb is too long. So I'll just erase that down a little bit. I made my stick a little too long, but that's an easy fix because at this point this is the planning stage. So maybe this is a little bit too long here, and then the next joint to here, and then maybe to something like right here. And you can quickly make that correction. But you can see how easy it is to get to the starting point of just kind of blocking in the hand and having a good roadmap to continue on and start adding detail. So let's just hop back over to Photoshop and let's talk about tip number 2. Okay, let's jump into tip number 2. Tip number 2 is keep it simple. Use landmarks on your hand to draw and block in simple shapes. Slowly build in details and pay attention to negative space. So like in my other tutorials, I talk about finding simple shapes. So we can see there's a rectangular shape here, kind of for the palm of the hand, coming off the wrist, which is a simple rectangular or trapezoidal shape. And then you have another kind of trapezoid shape at this joint here, a square shape here, and kind of a triangular shape here for the thumb. Then moving away from the knuckle area, we kind of have a trapezoidal shape here that captures some of that skin in between your fingers. And then using the breaks where the joints in your fingers are, can be simplified into rectangular shapes, like so, all the way across. And so you always want to be mindful of the negative space in here, because that plays an important part in the motion and the emotion in seeing someone's hands and the positions that their hands are in. Just like so. So then once you get to this point, you can come back in and start detailing and rounding off the tips of the fingers to get a more accurate depiction of your reference and the details of your hands and your fingers. Okay, so jumping back in here, I wanted to show you another way to keep it simple. If you look at the inside of your hand, it's actually probably easier to see some of the breaks in the joints of the fingers and the thumbs, and the lines are very, very, very clear to see. As you can see, you have these creases on the inside of your fingers that will really help you see the simple shapes. Probably a little bit easier than looking at the back side of your hand. Very, 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 very easy to see. So you may want to try doing some practice sketches using the inside of your hand as the reference, because initially I think you'll be able to see the simple shapes to kind of get you started on your drawings of your hands, and to help with the process of drawing hands. You know, way, way more visible breaks and landmarks for you to identify on the inside of the hand. So you may want to give that a try. So I'll jump on over to the drawing table and demonstrate this on paper. Okay, welcome back to the drawing table. Let's talk about tip number 2. Tip number 2 is all about keeping it simple. We want to take the reference that we're looking at, which is the hand, and start looking for basic shapes. We can build upon the stick method, and we can come in and we can use the things that we see, like the metacarpals. You can kind of see through my skin to kind of help you determine the angle. But another way is just to find the basic shapes in here and capture that as a way to build our roadmap. So I see going across the knuckles, I can see that I'm seeing like a square shape. So we can start by simply just sketching out a square based kind of on the angles that we see, like so. And then we can kind of chop it off at an angle, which now kind of makes it a trapezoid, like so. And then we can see a rectangular shape here at the wrist. So we want to kind of create that rectangular shape, because we're just trying to keep everything simple and basic. And then I also see from the knuckles up, the extra skin that's between the knuckles and the first joint is kind of a trapezoid kind of shape I'm seeing. So we can kind of create a trapezoid on top of this square, kind of like so. And we're just trying to keep everything loose, but look for basic shapes. I see as we capture this angle here for where the thumb is, we can take a little bit off of this square here, like so, and I'm seeing a trapezoid shape formed at the thumb, kind of like so. And then I'm seeing a square or a trapezoidal kind of shape there to kind of define the I guess that would be the first joint of the thumb, since there's only really two, with one being the metacarpal. And then for the tip of the thumb, I'll just capture the angle in a square, because then we'll come back and then we'll round those all off. So you end up with something like that. And then for the fingers, we can simply determine, we can use the stick to kind of get the angle and the distance or the length of the fingers, like so. Same thing here. And for the pinky finger, kind of like so. And I'm just keeping this real rough so you get the idea. So there's my sticks again. So now I just want to use the landmarks that I see. I'm got old hands, but you can see where the joints have this wrinkly pattern. So we use that pattern to help us decide where we're going to stop and create the joint. And so I'm seeing just a square here. And of course you want to make this based on the thickness of the actual finger. You want to create your simple block shape there, And you can also feel free to, instead of doing these individually, I'm doing these individually, and it'll make sense when I show you the next image I have, but I'm doing these individually to kind of show where we know where the joints bend in your hand. But you can also, in a situation like this where the reference is showing you a straight finger, you can draw the entire rectangle to the end, like so, and then come in and break it at the joints later. So I'll finish these off by just adding rectangles like so, rectangle like so, identifying where the breaks are, and then come back with your eraser and do a little housekeeping by starting to just define what the shape of your reference is kind of doing. You round those off a little bit to kind of give you what's going on. Same thing with the thumb. It's really like almost a triangular, I have a triangular kind of tip of my thumb. So then once you have this kind of mapped out, you can come in and start cleaning up some of this additional stuff in here that you don't really need. It kind of helps you get to this road maps state. And so then you start going in here and analyzing the negative space to kind of help you refine your drawing. Like we know this distance is a little tighter, so we want to make that distance a little tighter here. And then there's a wide distance here, so we want to keep that kind of here, capture that angle like so. And we know that the knuckles don't sit at the end of this shape. They sit a third of the way down. So we find kind of where those are and we mark those. It's kind of in that. Yeah, sorry for the weird cut, but like I was saying, so we know that the knuckles don't sit at the top of the shape. They sit kind of a third of the way down. So keeping in mind with that arc, we'll end up drawing a little bit of the side of the fingers as they blend into the skin of the hand. And then once you have this kind of blocked out like so, then you can come in and start revising and erasing some of the guidelines and start building into your detail. And like I was saying earlier, as you're practicing, sometimes you may want to try drawing the inside of your hand. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at the inside of my hand, the landmarks become very, 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 very clear. clearer than drawing the backside of my hand. So as you can see, you can clearly see where the separation of the joints are on the inside of my hand, and you can clearly see how you can simplify the shape. So you can clearly see more of a shape like so for the palm of the hand, more of a square shape with a little bow on the side, a belly, and then you can kind of connect this angle to where the wrist comes in here, and then you can see where the wrist joint is here. You can clearly see that. So you may want to start, drawing the inside of your hand, because like I said, it's easier to find these definable landmarks. They're very, very clear, and it'll help you get into the practice of breaking the joints up, using the stick to kind of create the length of the fingers, like so. But then you can clearly see this arcing and breaks in the stick, like so, across the top here, like the distances. Now the only thing that's a little different is, like on the back side of the hand, we know that this bone is longer, the longest in the fingers. But when you turn your hand over, you're not seeing that joint because it's hidden behind this flesh. So this first section will appear to be smaller based on the landmarks that you're seeing for the inside of the hand, but that's the only real difference. And so then you can kind of sketch in the finger thickness based on your reference and the tips of the fingers and where they sit. But you can clearly see the breaks. And then keep in mind the negative space in between the fingers as well. Like this is not very high. There, comes up like so, and then you round it off. And then for the thumb, you're getting this angle, which is more to the first joint, like a trapezoid again kind of shape. And then you can clearly see where it breaks again for the next joint. Got a little bulge there because it's folded, and then like so. So then you'll have a very, very good representation of a hand, proportionally, and also you'll begin to understand how it articulates, and then from here you come in, you start erasing some of these guidelines, and then start fine-tuning. But like I said, the inside may be an easier place to start because there's a lot of clearly, very, very, very clearly defined marks that'll help you with your setup. So let's move on to tip number 3. Okay, so we're at the final tip. The final and most important tip that I have for you is practice. Practice, 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 practice. Repetition. I'm going to take 3 different images of my hand in 3 different positions and just do some sketches. So let's hop on over to the drawing table, and I'll talk more about just tip number 3, the most important tip, practice. So welcome back to the drawing table, and I'll be talking about tip number 3, practice, practice, practice. So I have my references of my 3 hand poses here, and I'm going to try to just do little smaller sketches so I can capture all 3 poses on one sheet for you. And here we just want to implement some of the techniques I talked about. So for this first one, it'll probably be just blocking in, finding basic shapes, squares, trapezoids, and that's it. Squares and trapezoids and rectangles. So let's get started. So I see kind of a square shape here. So I'll lightly kind of look at the blockiness of the fist I have here, and kind of block it in. I'm seeing kind of a trapezoidal shape of the thumb, like so, coming up into another kind of trapezoidal blocky shape there for the top knuckles, like so. And I'm just trying to capture the angle of the hand and the wrist, like so. And once I kind of get it the basic shape kind of blocked in, I can now go back and lightly erase some of the rough guidelines I have here, and start capturing some of the silhouette that I see, and also some of the more details of how these fingers are going to come off the fist. So, like so. I probably didn't go over far enough here, so I'll just bring it down based on what I'm seeing. And so keeping everything kind of just rough and loose, because this is just practice. I want to get in the habit of blocking stuff out kind of quickly and roughly, and then refine as needed. So that's a little rough, but it's practice. So not everything needs to be a super refined sketch at the end, because you're just trying to warm up for one and practice kind of capturing the angles of your reference. It's just more like this, like so. So that would be one example right there. So cleaning this up a little more, going to try to match this entire mask a little better. Here we have this large knuckle here, so I can kind of roughly sketch that knuckle in, the next knuckle, the knuckle up here, and this far knuckle, and then move this down a little more, like so. And how the knuckle of the thumb sticks out at a different, more open angle. over here, a little more like so, and runs off of here like that. And then you have this piece of skin here that sticks up vertical more than horizontal, and then have all these nice little details that you can add later. But you just want to capture the overall form and shape as a nice study and sketch of your hands. So one down, we'll move on to the next one. So moving on to pose number 2, we'll do a combination of simple shapes and using sticks to capture this pose. So we'll start out by blocking in kind of the main shape, the big palm area, back part of the hand, with kind of a rectangular type of shape. I guess that would be called is it a pentagon with 5? Can't remember. You know what I'm talking about. So we'll add the wrist area kind of as a shape, simple shape here, and then we will take where the knuckles sit across here, and then try to capture this kind of shape that goes up and across and then back down like so. Then I'll use the stick method to kind of indicate the direction of the thumb, like so, like so, and then the index finger coming up, kind of out like so, middle finger up, up, a little bit longer than the index finger, like so. And then the ring finger comes out, and if you can notice that this negative shape is kind of a trapezoidal shape, so we want to make sure that our stick kind of mimics that, so we know we're headed in the right direction in terms of capturing the pose. Same thing with the pinky, another trapezoid in the negative space, so we see that shoots out, up, and over like so. So now we'll use basic shapes to kind of add the thickness of the fingers in the direction of the way we drew the stick, like so. Same thing over here. The stick is kind of guiding the direction of the way we're drawing the thicker elements of the finger, like so. And keeping in mind this negative space in between to draw the middle finger, like so. Just basically offsetting what the stick is doing. And I will take some of these guidelines out, a little bit of the stick lightly, so we can kind of start seeing the form of the hand in there. Same thing with the ring finger. I'm going to use that negative space to kind of help us lock in the shape, like so. Just simply offset that stick shape there. I'll erase out the stick in the middle, and then finally we will have to adjust this a little bit because it's more dramatic than what I had on my paper, so we'll take it out further, up and over like so. And then use that negative space again to define what that finger's doing, like so. Erase out the stick. So you can see how we use those basic shapes to kind of come up with the overall feel of what the emotion of this hand in this position is giving off. We'll use the negative space to kind of lock that in. And let me erase out the stick here so you can see it. And shape the thumb. So now we have a nice roadmap where we can come back in and really start evaluating the shape and the silhouette and add nails to all the fingers and thumbs, and then we can start working in the details. But that's how you kind of rough it in, locate where the arcing pattern of the knuckles are there, and so we can really start defining the volumes and the form of the hand. So let's move on to the third sketch. Okay, moving on to the final pose here. We'll use a combination of simple shapes and sticks again. Just a little bit different. I wanted to show you something using a portion of seeing more of the inside of the hands, because I talked to you about in Photoshop, you know, the clear landmarks that help you break up the joints in the fingers, so, and in the thumb. So let's get started. So seeing a simple kind of oval shape that's kind of flattened out on the top here, and the same thing with like an oval shape here, some rectangles and some trapezoidal shapes. So I'm going to try and get it all on one sheet here, because these are all just kind of practice sketches. Not everything always has to be the super duper refined finished drawings. The point of sketching lots of times is practice, and that's what this tip is all about. Practice, practice, practice. So I'm using basic shapes to kind of just block in what I'm seeing. I'm going to use the stick method to kind of capture the angle of what the thumb is doing and where it stops here. And then I'll use the stick method to capture the expression of the fingers. And like I said, it's easier to see these breaks on the inside because you have these nice creases in your fingers that can help you capture the angles and the directions of the fingers. So stick, and then it kind of stops there because it's coming, you know, it's foreshortened because it's sticking out. The finger's coming towards you. And then the pinky finger, the angle, and then kind of down like so. And then the wrist coming down is more of a rectangular shape here. So I intentionally kind of wanted to show you this kind of video because, like I said, not everything has to be these super finished kind of portfolio-esque kind of drawings. You just want to practice. You know, repetition in anything will help you improve. You know, you think about golf as a great example. You know, they practice in stages. You know, they go out to the green one day and they practice driving. They practice chipping, they practice putting, they practice all phases of their game so that they're ready in those moments to perform when they have to. So I'm just offsetting the stick shape to capture the index finger here. And so I'll erase the stick out there so you can kind of see the shape that I'm working with here. And then I'll move on to the index, not the index finger, the middle finger. And then just kind of offset with the stick, the direction that the stick is going. Come down, think about the negative space in between here, like so. And move on to the ring finger and capture this foreshortening here, kind of a round oval shape there. And then finally we'll offset, keeping in mind that negative space in there to kind of capture what the pinky's doing. And it's kind of sitting down, facing you as well, like so. Clean this up a little bit. Just a little bit here. Get rid of these sticks in here. Kind of drop in some of these creases that the fingers are making to kind of help set this up, like so. And then this pinky is folded over a little more than I had in my sketch, so I'll make that change there, like so. And then I can start diving into these shapes here to kind of define what the palm is doing. And that's really it. I mean, the thing I wanted to express out of this video more than anything is obviously the 3 tips, but the most important tip is to practice. Just practice, practice, practice. You know, I wanted to show you some more rough executions. These are not perfect by any means, but I'm getting into the habit of going through these steps in order to get to the result that I want to get to. And it's very important. So, you know, gang 3 or 4 or 5 sketches up on a page. You know, I draw on Post-it notes sometimes. But the main thing here is just practice, practice, practice. I hope these steps, keeping things simple, blocking in simple shapes, using the stick method. There's a ton of different ways to execute hands. This is just what I like to use, and it's been beneficial to me. So hopefully it works for you and your practice. And drop a comment, ask me a question if you're unsure of anything that I've shown here. And I appreciate you all, and I hope that this has been very, very, very helpful. Thanks for sticking around to the end. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content from me, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. It'll help my channel grow. And please check out this video that's going to pop up here on the screen. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.